After a long trip across China, Emma Raducanu found herself once again under the blinding glare of tennis headlines. But this time, for all the wrong reasons. At the 2025 Ningbo Open, the British star was beaten by world number 219 Zhu Lin in a match that began with promise and ended in visible pain. For many watching, it wasn't just a loss. It was a symbol of something deeper. The slow unraveling of a player who once seemed destined to define an era. As Raducanu limped through that final set, clutching her back and staring at the court with hollow eyes, the question wasn't what happened today, but rather, when did it all start going wrong? To understand the collapse, you have to return to where it all began, the explosion of 2021. Emma Raducanu, then just 18 years old, stormed through the US Open as a qualifier, tearing down every opponent in her path. 10 straight matches, not a single set lost. She didn't just win a Grand Slam, she made history as the first qualifier ever to do so. Overnight, she became the face of women's tennis, fresh, fearless, and untouchable. Sponsorships rolled in from Dior, Nike, Tiffany, British Airways. Each one another reminder that the teenager from Bromley had become a global brand. But what no one realized at the time was that fame moves faster than foundation. Success came before experience could catch up, and the cracks that would later widen were already there, hiding behind the smiles and magazine covers. The months that followed turned that fairy tale into a slow-burn reality check. 2022 should have been the year of steady growth, a chance to adapt to the brutal rhythm of the WTA Tour. Instead, it became a carousel of retirements, blisters, and breakdowns. Raducanu changed coaches more often than most players change rackets, searching for answers that never stuck. Every new voice brought a new philosophy, and every new injury meant another reset. There was no continuity, no stable system, just scattered patches of brilliance surrounded by frustration. The physical toll was visible, but the emotional strain was worse. Expectations became a shadow that followed her into every locker room. By 2023, her body finally had enough. Multiple surgeries, both wrists and one ankle, left her in recovery for most of the season. 3 operations in 10 days, an unimaginable ordeal for a player still in her early 20s. She shared glimpses of her rehabilitation online, the braces, the slow steps, the sleepless nights. Her ranking fell into freefall. For the first time, she wasn't just fighting opponents, she was fighting her own body. The glow of 2021 seemed like a distant photograph. The once unstoppable champion was learning how to walk again, both literally and figuratively. When she returned to the tour in 2024, it was meant to be a rebirth. But the ghosts of her past followed her onto the court. The movement wasn't the same. The serve lacked its old sting. Each match carried not just physical pain, but psychological hesitation. The quiet fear that another misstep could mean another surgery. Even as she smiled for the cameras, her eyes betrayed fatigue. Media scrutiny intensified. Fans debated whether she had lost focus, whether the sponsorships had replaced the hunger. She confessed in interviews that sometimes she wished she had never won the US Open, because that victory chained her to a version of herself she could no longer live up to. Then came the Asian swing of 2025, the Wuhan Open, where she retired mid-match due to dizziness and exhaustion. It was a red flag, but few expected what would follow in Ningbo. Against Zhu Lin, she looked sharp at first, taking the opening set 6-3. For a brief moment, it felt like the spark might return. But then the familiar signs crept in. A wince, a pause, a hand to the lower back. She called for the trainer, twice. As the point slipped away, so did her focus. Zhu Lin, sensing weakness, became fearless. The match ended 3-6, 6-4, 6-1. A painful reversal that left Raducanu staring blankly at her racket strings, searching for answers that weren't there. The defeat wasn't shocking for what it was, but for what it symbolized. It was no longer about bad luck. It was a culmination. The consequences were inevitable. Her ranking dipped again, sliding toward the 300s. Tournament access became uncertain. Sponsors, still supportive, began to quietly adjust their expectations. Commentators questioned whether she should shut down her season entirely. The physical toll was clear. Repeated injuries risked becoming chronic. But the emotional toll was more invisible and perhaps more severe. When your fame is built on triumph, what happens when all that's left is survival? For Emma, this phase of her career has become a battle, not just to win matches, but to protect her identity. And yet, there is still hope. Beneath the exhaustion, the surgeries, and the heartbreak, there remains the player who defied logic in 2021. Perhaps, to find her way forward, she must return to that place of simplicity, to the girl who played without expectation, who swung freely, who didn't yet know the cost of greatness. The road back will be long, filled with qualifiers and empty stands. But maybe that's exactly where the healing begins. From the roaring lights of New York to the silent courts of Ningbo, Emma Raducanu's story has come full circle, from the dizzying heights of victory to the quiet struggle for endurance. The Ningbo collapse was not just another loss. It was a reminder that talent without balance burns fast and burns out. But if there's one thing sport has taught us, it's that redemption often begins in the ruins. Perhaps, in the silence after defeat, Emma will finally find the voice she lost in the noise of her own success.